stem cell geneticists, your presentation will be different than if you're talking to a room full of primary school students. Okay? Now, when you write an academic paper, generally speaking, your audience will be specialists of one kind or another. Even if you write a general readership academic paper, the very fact that it's called an academic paper means that it's designed for academics. Okay? Now, if you take that academic paper and you turn it into a presentation, you don't have that same audience. Maybe you're a biologist, but you're in a room full of scientists. So they might be chemists, they might be physicists, they might be geologists. They all have a background in science. They can understand basic science, but they're not geneticists, they're not specializing in DNA. You have to make sure that your presentation is understandable for all the people in the room. And in your case, you have to remember that the people who will come to see your presentation this time will not necessarily be from the same background as you. Okay, so that's important. On the other hand, don't turn your presentation into, what should I say, just a presentation for children. Don't turn it into a presentation with no content. It's very important to have the details there, and you can expect that the people who are watching your presentation this time, I will be one of them, have some background in science, have some background in social sciences, have some background in literature. There will be a variety of people there, and some people will have quite a good knowledge of your topic. So you do need to have some, hard and fast details, but you need to explain them so that everyone can understand. That's important. When you use technical vocabulary, often you will have to explain what it means quickly. Okay? And in that case, we go back to metaphor. You can explain something quickly. Okay? In the third session last week, luckily I was able to do my part of the presentation before I had too many problems and had to leave. But just to go over it again, I talked about chunking. So chunking is this ability to move up or down in levels of detail. Okay? So if you think about a big chunk might be something like transportation. And a very small chunk might be something like ball bearings. Okay, now how are these related? Well, transportation, you chunk down and you get types of transportation. Cars, buses, trains, planes, automobiles, all kinds of things. You choose cars and then you say types of cars. Toyota, you choose Toyota and then you say types of Toyota. Prius, you say Prius and you say parts of a Prius car. You say the wheels. You choose the wheels and you say parts of the wheels, and inside the wheels are these little ball bearings that make things move around. Okay? So these two are related. Now, if I suddenly start talking about ball bearings, you won't know what I'm talking about. My research is about a harder, more effective ball bearing. And you're thinking, pachinko. He is making pachinko balls. But that's not it. I'm talking about cars. I'm talking about making transportation better. So I want to tell you that. I want to say, well, one of the problems with transportation at the moment is the amount of pollution that it produces. So, of course, there are lots of things we're doing to make cars pollute less, but it's very difficult. Of course, we can build electric cars. It looks like they have no pollution, but the electricity was generated somewhere. And when we generate that electricity, often there is a lot of pollution produced. So the car itself is not producing pollution, but the generation of the electricity is. The simple fact is that when a car moves along, there is friction. So you have to use energy. The more energy that you use, the more pollution you are likely to produce. So while, these new energy efficient cars with battery packs are very important, it's also really important that we produce cars which are working with less and less friction. And of course, in the future, we envision cars that fly. Maybe they use magnetic system. And this will be very low friction, because you will have friction with the air. You know friction? We will have friction with the air, but no friction with the road. However, we can't produce these cars yet. What we can do is produce better and better ball bearings, which reduce the friction. Okay? So today I'm going to look at how we can produce those better ball bearings. Now suddenly my presentation makes sense to you. I've gone from a very big topic down to some details. Now I give you lots of information about the ball bearings, about something else. Then we go back and we say, so what that means is that these better ball bearings will reduce friction by 50%. Wow, And that will mean that you use 25% less petrol when you drive your car, 25% less electricity. And that means that in Japan alone there will be this much less pollution. Okay? And we go back. So we started with a big picture, we came down, we chunked down into the details. I gave you lots of details about my research, about my topic, and then we chunked back up. Okay? That is my suggestion for how you structure any presentation, any paper. And so far, it seems to be successful. If you have feedback, please tell me. But it's an easy way to structure your presentation, to structure your writing. It will work successfully 95% of the time. And I strongly recommend that this time you start with the big picture, chunk down, chunk back up. Okay? So it kind of looks like you go down, stay down for a long time, go back up. Okay? We also talked about pronunciation, how you say the words. And I told you that generally speaking, I don't think pronunciation is so important when speaking English. Often, Japanese people are overly concerned with pronunciation. How can we speak like Americans? I see advertisements for English teacher wanted, must speak American English. Okay? Well, that's great. It's great to aim for native speaker like pronunciation, but it's really not necessary. But what is necessary is that people can understand you. So even if your pronunciation is not perfect, if you speak loudly, if you project your voice, you have a good chance of being understood. Okay? If your pronunciation is perfect, but if you speak with a loud voice, it's easier even if I make mistakes. Body language. There are two things about body language that I want you to remember. One is some don'ts. Okay? There are some things you don't do. You don't put your hand in front of your face. Okay? You don't go crazy. Okay? You don't make any kind of body languages that might be, considered rude or... But on the other hand, you do want to have some expression in your body language. Okay? You want to use your body to get your point across. Okay? You want to direct people's attention. If you have a presentation behind you, it's useful to use your body to show people. Okay? Rather than just speaking, as you can see in the graph behind me, okay, you want to show people. As you can see in the graph behind me, okay, so you want to use your body to make your points. So those are our last 3 sessions. Any questions? No? We're okay for now? So, let's go on a bit. Next slide. Here is some more detail, okay, about, of course, some points that I think are very important. Okay? So, as you can see on the slide here, one more time, structure your presentation. 10 to 20 seconds for your self-introduction. Hello, my name is Francesco Bolstad. I'm from New Zealand. I came to Japan in order to study English education in primary schools. And today's presentation will be about my research. Specifically, I'm looking at the introduction of English into Japanese primary schools. Over the last few years, this has been an important part of English education in Japan and is the leading edge. So I moved from my self-introduction to my academic introduction, and maybe you didn't even notice. If I'm good at it, they flow together. Okay? If I'm not so good at it, hello, my name is Francesco Bolstad. Pleased to meet you all. I'm here from New Zealand. Now, I would like to introduce my paper. It's still okay, but you see the pause, you see the change from one to the other. If you're really, really getting used to it, you have a flow. My name is Francesco Bolstad. I came to Japan in order to study English education in Japanese primary schools. Over the last few years, this has been the leading edge of English education research in Japan. And specifically today, I'll be talking about the results of my research. You see, smooth flow. Then you go on and you do the main body. Okay? Really, you only have time for 1 to 3 points. Okay? Because you only really have 3 minutes or so for the main body of your talk. Your conclusion should not be cut short. Conclusion is a very important part of your presentation, and often people make it too short. Often people are so concerned with the main body that they don't leave themselves time for the really important part. When I teach people academic reading, what I tell them to do is to take an academic paper to read the introduction and then read the conclusion. I tell them to skip the middle. Okay? Why? Because most of the information is in the introduction and the conclusion. If the topic is really interesting to you, then you will go back and get more details about it later. You read the introduction, you read the conclusion, and then you think, hey, this is not what I was interested in. I don't need to read the middle. Or you think, wow, that's really important. I want to go back and read the middle. I want to get a copy of this paper so that I can read it again and again and again. Now, when you're giving a presentation, people can't skip to the end. But you definitely don't want to skip the end. Often people will be sitting in your presentation and they're tired, they're sleepy, they start to drift off. But usually they're awake at the start and they're awake at the end. Okay? Those are the 2 times when you can get across your important messages. When we look at recall, it's very true that the first thing you say and the last thing you say are remembered best. Okay? Question times. We'll go across that more today. You have quite a lot of time for question time, but you will find it's too short. Question time takes a lot of time. You have to pass around a microphone. People's questions are difficult to understand. They've just heard your presentation, they're thinking about it and talking as they think. You listen to their question and you say, what? What is your question? I don't understand. They say their question again. Ah, okay, I see. Then you give your answer. It takes a long time. Okay? So, looks like a long time, really it's not. Secondly, once again, some details, analogy and metaphor. think of your presentation like a chance to teach your paper. I can't say this enough. A presentation is a teaching session. It's your chance to teach people for a few minutes. Save time, use analogy, use metaphor. We've been over that. Okay, next one. Chunking. Okay, chunking is often a new idea for people. I mean, it's something you do all the time, but I'm just trying to give you the details of how to do it. Once you get used to this way of thinking, you will be able to use chunking in thousands of different ways in your life. It's a very useful thing to understand about the process of going from the big picture to the details and from the details to the big picture. Okay? I promise this will be useful to you. Absolutely. Next one. Okay, last year's presentations were used last time to show you, and actually today I'll use this year's presentations to show you how difficult it is. Okay? Can we go to the next one? Let's see if we can play this. Oh no, it's not going to play, it's going to go. Will it play on here? No, it won't. Okay, we have to roll it in. Okay, maybe we'll skip that for now because we have a chance somewhere else. Unfortunately, the video doesn't play from here to the screen so well. But the main point for me is I hope that when you watched last year's presentations, you noticed, wow, I can't understand. I can't hear. It's too hard. They had the same sessions from me, and I told them the same things. And still, it's hard to understand. They're talking about a topic you don't know about. And they only have a few minutes to explain it. And their English is not perfect. Okay? The reality is, presenting in English is really hard. I find presenting in Japanese very difficult. I hope that you will practice, because that's really the only way to get to be perfect. In English we say, practice makes perfect. Another thing we could say is, without practice, you will never be perfect. Okay? The more you practice, the better you get. Really, really highly recommend that you video yourself. Watch it. Do it again. Video it again. Watch it again. Okay? That's my recommendation. Okay, next one. Now, yeah, fun. Humor. One of the big differences between presentations from native English speakers and Japanese people is humor. I cannot remember the last time I saw an English presentation from a native speaker without a joke. Honestly, if I think back, I just can't remember. Maybe I've never seen one. Everybody jokes when there's native English speakers. I have often seen Japanese presenters present a whole hour without a single joke. Okay? And it's just strange to me. That doesn't mean it's wrong. I'm not telling you to change your Japanese presentations. I am telling you, if you want to present in English to English native speakers, they are used to humor. And humor is surprisingly structured. So what I'm going to teach you now is a simple strategy for making a story funny. Okay? And this is the strategy that comedians use. In fact, in order to teach this, I knew, we use humor in English presentations, so I should teach Japanese students how to use humor. How do I do that? Oh dear. That's not going to work. Okay, Japanese people don't need humor. No, that doesn't work. So I went and I bought some books on how to be a comic. And it's a very simple structure. to how to make a joke. A joke has two storylines. Okay? This is the trick. A joke has two storylines. At the start of the joke, you think you're following one storyline. At the end of the joke, you realize you are following a different storyline. The joke has a twist. Something you didn't expect happens. Or sometimes you expect it, but still it's a twist. You build up to it. Okay? Some of the really best examples of these kind of jokes are rude jokes. Jokes about sex, or jokes about people from different countries. I'm going to tell you one about people from different countries. And in my joke, I'm a New Zealander, so the New Zealander is going to be the stupid one. Of course, when I heard this joke, it was people from different countries who were stupid, but because I'm a New Zealander, I'm going to tell it, and New Zealand people will be stupid, because that's me. So, this joke starts with three men in a prison, a jail. So they have done something wrong, or maybe it's a prisoner of war camp. Maybe it's World War II and they are fighting the Japanese. Something like this, okay. And in this story we're going to have an Australian, a New Zealander, and a British person, a Brit. Okay? So we've got a Kiwi, an Aussie, and a Brit. Okay? Now to make this story funny, it helps if I move around, and it helps if I use language that makes you feel close to me. So if I say we have a New Zealander, an Australian, and an Englishman, it's not as good as if I say we have a Kiwi, an Aussie, and a Brit. Okay, these are the words we use for Kiwi for New Zealander, Aussie for Australian, and Brit for British. Okay? So this makes us feel close. We are sharing the same language. Okay, so we've got this Kiwi, this Aussie, and this Brit, and they're sitting in a Japanese prisoner of war camp in World War II. And they're trying to think, how can we escape? We have to get out. We have to run away, and, what can we do? So one night, they are sitting there trying to think, what can we do? See some body language, trying to think, trying to think, what can we do? And they hear a noise, like a stone falling from the top of the wall. And then the Japanese guard on the guard tower shines the light around. What's that? Who's trying to escape? And he has a big gun. And then he hears the sound. Meow. And the spotlight shines down, and the prison cat is in the spotlight. And he understands that the cat knocked a stone off the fence. The Japanese prison guard, stupid fucking cats, God. And goes back to reading his book or whatever. And the Kiwi, the Aussie, and the Brit, they look at each other. Yes! Brilliant idea. I know how to escape, they think. And the next night, the Brit, he climbs out, and he climbs over the fence. He sneaks up, and he has black all over his face so he can't be seen. And just when he gets to the top of the fence, he knocks a stone down. And the guard starts shining the light around. What's that? What's that? And the Brit goes, meow. And the Japanese guy goes, oh, it's that damn cat again, every night. And the Brit, he climbs over the fence and he runs away. So the next night, the Aussie says, right, it's my turn now. And the Aussie, he gets out and, he gets from the fireplace, he gets all the dark soot all over his body, and he climbs over the fence, and just as he's jumping down on the other side, he makes a sound, boom! And the Japanese guard is shining the light around, he's saying, right, that Brit got away last night, someone else is trying to escape, I'm sure of it. And he goes, meow, meow. And the Japanese guard goes, oh, it's that damn cat again. Every night that cat's out here. And the Aussie runs away. So on the third night, the Kiwi says, "Ha, my turn." And so he climbs out, and of course first he gets himself all black, rolls around in the soot, and he's climbing over the fence, and he gets to the top of the fence, and just then he bumps a stone and it falls down, dong! And the guard on the guard tower, he starts shining the light around. "What is that? What is that?" And the Kiwi, he goes, "Don't worry, it's just the cat!" And they shoot him. Now, this is a funny story if you're a native English speaker, and it's a joke that people hear at school. And I guess in every country we use different people. Usually if you're a New Zealander, you might say that the Aussie is the stupid one or whatever. But in this case, it's funny because there is one story. Everybody is getting away safely. That's where we are going. And suddenly you realize, the story has changed. This is a story about a stupid Kiwi guy. Okay? So this is the structure of a joke, is to have this twist. And when I was a young child, I didn't really understand this. I didn't know how to make jokes. But one of my friends knew how to make jokes. I don't know if he had read a book on this or what, but he really understood how to make jokes. And so he made a rude joke about some of my friends. So this is a story about my friends. And the story is about Simon and Joe and Lewis. Okay, Simon and Joe and Lewis. And what happens is that Simon and Joe and Lewis are going hiking up in the mountains. And they come to this big cave. And they look and they go, "Wow, I wonder what's in there. Does anybody have a torch?" No. Nobody has a torch. Ooh, it's scary. Because we were just little kids. Ooh, it's scary. I wonder what's in there. And then Simon says, "I'm going to go and see." And Joe and Lewis say, no, don't go in. It's too scary. But Simon goes into the cave. And then a moment later, Simon comes running out of the cave, holding his nose, going, "Pooh, skunk, yuck." You know, skunk, black and white, lots of terrible smell. Okay, so, of course, Simon runs out and Joe and Lewis are like, he's having us on. There are no skunks in New Zealand. It's not true. He's just a joke. And then, so Joe says, "Well, why don't we go in?" And so Lewis says, no, I don't want to go in. And Joe says, "Okay, well, I'll go in." And so Joe walks into the cave. And then he comes running out, exactly the same, holding his nose. "Pooh, skunk, ugh." And now Lewis is sitting there, "Oh, you guys are pulling my leg. You're trying to trick me. It's not true. There are no skunks in New Zealand." "Look, I'm going to go and check." And so Lewis walks into the cave. And a moment later, the skunk comes running out of the cave, holding its nose and going, "Pooh, Lewis." So, this was a very funny joke because it was a mean joke between children. It is saying that Lewis is smelly. Okay? It's a mean joke. But it follows exactly the same structure. You see, you're following one story. You're waiting for Lewis to run out of the cave or to say there is no skunk. And then suddenly the story changes and the skunk comes running out. Okay? So this is how you tell a story that's funny. It must have a sudden change in it. Okay? And that's one way to make jokes for yourself, for your presentation. Okay? It's a little bit difficult, I know. You can tell some sort of funny jokes. I don't suggest you go out and say, "I'm going to tell a joke at the start of my presentation." But you can include some humour in the start of your presentation. That's called an icebreaker. It allows people to relax. Okay? you can have a funny story at the start of it. It sounds like it's part of your research, but actually it tells about your joke, your icebreaker. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. So why are jokes funny? A story within a story. Okay, you've got two stories going. You have a twist. You have a sudden change. And sometimes really good jokes are revealing the truth. Okay? So especially really good jokes like political satire. When you look at politicians and you make a joke about politicians. Okay? You can make lots of jokes about Japanese politics. It's kind of already a joke sometimes. All you have to do is watch the news to think it's kind of like a joke. So, of course, you can make jokes about this. Also, you can make jokes about your own group. You have to be very careful if you make jokes about other people's groups. Generally speaking, it's okay to make jokes about politicians. Most people will laugh. And generally speaking, you can make a joke about yourself. But if you make a joke about someone else, or someone else's group, often you will get in trouble. So remember, I told you the joke about the prison escapees, and I made the New Zealander seem stupid. If I make the Aussie seem stupid, Australian people might get very angry with me. If I make a black person seem stupid, that's not going to work because I'm not black. If I make woman seem stupid, that's not going to work either. But if I make men seem stupid, people will laugh with me. Which is not hard, of course, because men make themselves look stupid all of the time. So, it's very good for making jokes. See, there I'm doing this thing again. I'm making men look stupid. I'm saying men are stupid. Okay? If I say, it's not hard to make fun of women because, hey, girls, women are just stupid, right? It's not a joke. It's an attack. And you'll get angry. But if I say, hey guys, we're lucky, right? Because we're guys, so we can make fun of men. And that's easy because men are stupid, right? Then it's funny because I'm a man. So when you make a joke, I strongly recommend that you think about what group you are in. And it's okay to make jokes about your own group. Sometimes I teach at one of the laboratories in the Kogaku, the engineering department. And the professor I work for is an amazing professor, and he has special English lessons for his students. And he speaks just amazing English, and he does presentations of really high level. And I teach his students how to make presentations like this, and they travel around the world and make presentations about their research. And his research room is also famous because at his laboratory, people work really hard. Okay? So, often the students will complain, oh, we work too hard, or, But that's well known. In the engineering department, this professor's laboratory is known for the students stay late and work hard, and they get good results. So this is a great way for them to present their jokes. They can joke about this. They can make a joke about, well, in our research laboratory, of course, we get some great results. We work 10 times as hard as everyone else and we get at least twice as good results. Which makes them sound bad. They work 10 times as hard, but only twice as many results. Should be 10 times as much, right? You're making a joke about yourself. And it's true. They work hard. But that's not a bad thing. Okay? And so people can laugh about that. Okay? You can talk about how important it is to work hard. You can make jokes about your own group. But if they made jokes about other groups, it wouldn't be funny. Yes, well, of course, the research laboratory next to us, they work twice as hard as we do and they get no results. It's not a joke anymore. It's an attack. Okay? when you make jokes, you want to think about your own group. You want to think about what research you did. What's funny about that? You can have little stories with a twist. Okay? That will be funny, and that's a good way to start your presentation. I recommend that you have something light at the start of your presentation. Okay? If you're presenting about a big topic like transportation, then maybe you can make jokes about the fact that you live in Japan and there are so many cars in Japan. So I come from New Zealand, so I can make jokes about New Zealand. Okay? So I can say, well, you know, in New Zealand transportation is a big issue because obviously, you know, traffic jams. In New Zealand we're doing a lot of research now on how to avoid traffic jams. I mean, you know how difficult it can be when you're commuting to work and you get in your car and you start driving and you get in a traffic jam and you have to wait there for a whole 5 minutes. Okay, because this is a joke. Because in Japan a traffic jam means what, 1 or 2 hours? But in New Zealand we have 4 million people in the entire country. So a traffic jam, honestly, a traffic jam in any city but Auckland in New Zealand is probably, what, 5-10 minutes. So often my grandmother will get very angry. Oh no, another traffic jam! And she's been sitting there for 5 minutes. And my wife will be looking at her, what do you mean traffic jam? There's only 10 cars. They're just waiting at the lights. It's not a traffic jam. And then I come to Japan, and I get on the Japanese motorway in Golden Week, and I get out of the car and I walk past the car. You know? So that's funny, right? If you come from Japan, you have that shared experience. If you come from New Zealand, you understand what it's like in New Zealand. You can make jokes about short traffic jams. You can make jokes about a New Zealand traffic jam. That means the sheep are in the road. Sometimes in New Zealand, when you're driving down the road, you have to stop the car and wait because there are sheep on the road. It's true. This is honest. Often we stop. There are rules in New Zealand. You don't beep the horn. If you beep the horn, the sheep will run away, and the farmer gets very angry. You should slow down and drive through the sheep very slowly, and they will get out of your way. We know this. We are New Zealanders. I can make jokes about that. Right? If I start a presentation, I come in and the presentation is not starting on time. I'm a little bit late. I can say, look, I'm sorry, everybody. You know, it was a real rush today. There were at least 4,000 sheep in my way on the road today. I had to really slow down. And, you know, that's funny because you're in New Zealand. It wouldn't be funny in Japan. What? Sheep? Road? What are you talking about? Okay. So think about your group. Think about something that is personal for you. Think about a story you can tell that has a twist, has a change. That's a great way to get people warmed up. Next slide. We're going to go on to questions. Firstly, do you have any questions about humour? No? Humour is difficult. So as I said, I can tell you how to do it. You will only be able to do it well if you practice. Do you have any questions about humour? About telling jokes? No? Okay, our next big topic today, I'm trying to move quite fast because I still want to have time for some presentations today. Our next big topic today is questions. Now, questions are probably the part of the presentation that most people hate the most. I love it. Questions are easy. Questions means I don't have to prepare. If there are no questions, I have to talk more. It's more work. Okay? I love questions, but most people find questions hard. You can't control what will happen. Okay? So one thing I will show you is that you can control a little bit. You have some control. How long do you give people to think of questions? Right now, I gave you a few seconds and there are no questions. If I gave you longer, maybe I will get some questions. But I move us along quickly. Hey, I'm in control. It's question time, but I'm moving things along. Can we go on to the next slide? Types of questions that you might have. Okay? You might have some questions about a topic you have already covered. This is quite common. Someone didn't understand what you said, or they didn't listen. Okay? It's hard to tell. When you're the presenter, it's always other people's fault. I told you the answer to that already. But the reality is that if they didn't understand, even though you told them, it means you didn't tell them properly. Okay? Everything is your fault. You are the presenter. If they don't understand, you didn't explain it well enough. If someone asks about a topic you have already covered, I recommend that you go back with the slide to where you covered that topic. And you remind them about it politely. I recommend you never say, I covered that on slide 5, we won't be talking about it again. That's rude. You say, well, if we go back to slide 5, you'll see that blah, 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 blah. And you represent your information politely. That's all you have to do. At the end, you can then ask, does that answer your question? Okay. Does that answer your question? Very nice, polite way to finish up at the end of your answer. Another type of question you may be asked, things outside your presentation. People listen to your presentation and they have all kinds of ideas popping into their head. Wow, ball bearings that are smooth and strong and mean that the car travels with less friction. Haha, my dad owns a pachinko parlor and we always spend a lot of money buying new ball bearings. I wonder if I could use these ball bearings in my pachinko machines at Dad's pachinko parlor. So they ask a question. Would your ball bearings work in my pachinko machines? And you're like, what? I don't know. They're for cars. Okay? But you can't say that. You have to say politely. At the moment, we haven't done any research on that issue. It's a very interesting question, and if you do the research, I would love to hear your answer. Okay? If you go and find out, please tell me. I don't know. It's not part of my presentation. Don't spend time on things that are not related. Quickly finish it. Okay? If it's outside your presentation, you just say, wow, that's a very interesting question, and at the moment we're not doing that research. We're not looking into that. I would love to know if somebody else does that research. Please tell me. Simple. Okay, the third time we have up here, questions you don't know the answer to. Everybody dreads this kind of question. But it's not so bad. If you don't know the answer to basic questions, you should never have stood up to present. I'm very sorry, but there is no escape. Some questions you should know the answer to. And if you don't, I can't save you. But there are a lot of things that are not things you should know the answer to. Okay? If someone asks you very specific questions, so those ball bearings, what were the exact numbers on the stress tests? You don't know, it's not in your file. You have the information back home somewhere, but you can't answer. You just say, I'm very sorry, I'm sure that we have that information back at the research centre. I would be pleased to email it to you if you send me an email with your question. At the moment, I can't provide you that data. My apologies. You just say, I don't know. I don't know right now. I can't remember. I don't remember everything. That's okay. You can always say, I don't know. If you don't know basic facts, that's a problem. But there are lots of things it's okay not to know. Just say, I'm sorry. I don't know the answer to that right now. Sometimes I give to the audience. Sometimes people ask me a question. They might ask me something like, what are the specific differences between English education in Japanese primary schools and Korean primary schools? Oh, that's a very good question. If my topic is on, primary school English education, that's my research. I'm interested in that question too. I would like to know the answer. I don't know. I'm very sorry. My research is specifically on Japanese primary schools. I would be very interested to know the answer to that question. Does anybody in the audience know the answer? Oh, yes, sir, you know the answer. Oh, you're a professor from Korea. I see. Could you please tell us? Thank you. That's great. I really wanted to know that. Easy. It's okay not to be perfect. Lots of people know things I don't know. That's okay. I don't mind. Good. Another kind of question that you may get is a question within a question. People ask 3 or 4 questions at once. This is very common and it's very confusing. What are you asking? At that time, you need to break the questions down as best you can. If you can't understand, you just have to say, I'm sorry, sir, it seems you are asking several questions. Is that a question or a statement? Are you giving an opinion or asking a question? Could you restate your question more simply, please? I'm sorry, I'm not very smart. You need to talk slowly for me. That's okay, I don't mind. I can make jokes about myself. My apologies. At that time, that person can say it for you again. If you think you understand, but you think there is more than one question, you can check. So let me just check here. I think there are 2 questions. Firstly, you're asking about A, and also you're asking about B. Is that correct? And if they go yes, you go, okay, well, firstly, I will answer B. And then you give the answer. Now, with regard to A, actually, I don't know the answer. I'm very sorry. If anybody else out there in the audience does know, I would love to invite you to answer now. Okay? You break the questions up. You check. Don't try to answer all the questions at once. Say, that sounds like 1 and 2. The final kind of question that I'm going to look at today, there are of course more types of questions you might get, but is questions with long answers. Remember, you have 5 minutes for question time. You don't want to spend 5 minutes on one question. If someone asks you a question with a really long answer, please answer the question quickly, shortly, and then suggest they talk to you after the presentation. That's a really good question. I'm afraid that answering it would take too much time, and I only have a short amount of time. To give you a quick answer, the answer is yes. If you would like the details, please come and talk to me after the presentations are finished, and I would be happy to show you why the answer is yes. Okay? Just tell them, sorry, not enough time. Yes or no, or actually I can't even start to answer, it's just too long. Okay? Then talk to me later on. Okay, do you have any questions about questions? Keep thinking. I'll keep going and then we'll have a little bit of time for questions at the end. Next slide. Okay. Well, then you don't have the ones that I do. Aha, that's interesting. You don't have one that says making your presentation, rehearsing, adjusting for your target audience?
Is that file in the USB?
It is.
Really?
Should have replaced this one, I thought. It's not so important, it's just one more slide. It can't be found, I will talk about it anyway.
Can't find.
Okay, so finally what I would like to talk about is what you do now, after today. You have a little bit of time to get ready for your presentation, but you don't have support. I'm not going to be there to check it for you. Nobody else is going to be there to check it for you. How can you improve your presentation? What should you do next? You have all this information. I've given you lots of ideas. I've said you should use metaphors, you should have humor, you'll have all kinds of different questions. Okay? What can you do to get better? Well, the simple answer is you can rehearse, you can practice. How can you do that? The simplest way is to get a video camera. Either borrow one from the university or get one from home, or of course just about every modern computer has one on the front. If you record your presentation and you look at it, you will notice so many embarrassing mistakes. It's very, very shocking to watch yourself sometimes, even for me. You know, I go out and I see myself on the internet, oh God, is that me? Oh no, please erase. But it's very useful. Okay? If you present again and again and again, you will get better because you can think back on it like the video camera. But it takes more time. If you look at a video of yourself, you will notice a lot of mistakes quickly. So the fastest way, and you need a fast way because you don't have much time, the fastest way to improve is watch your video again and again. And you will notice, what am I saying? My pronunciation is terrible. I thought I said that correctly, but I can't understand myself. If you can, get a friend to watch it too. It's good to get more feedback. Maybe you can get someone else from this group. Okay? You can help each other. If you watch your presentations, write some notes, change it a little bit, and do it again. You are not going to go from where you are now to perfect in one practice. Okay? In any learning, we talk about the N+1 rule. So N is now, where you are now. And +1 means you only want to go one step at a time. If I want to teach you something and I say, okay, your English level is N, so I'm going to teach you N+10, then you won't understand. If I want to get to N+10, I should do N+1 equals a new N. Then I do +1 again equals a new N. Okay? So this is whatever, N0, N1, N2, whatever, however you want to write it out. And I have to teach you again and again and again. It's the same with your presentation. It's a simple system. If tomorrow's presentation is a little bit better than today's, and if the day after tomorrow's presentation is a little bit better than tomorrow's, you're getting better. If you keep practicing, you will be the best presenter, because most people don't practice. That's the truth. They don't do enough. If you do more, you'll get better. Maybe this time you won't be the best presenter. If you keep practicing after this, in 3 years' time when you graduate, you will be brilliant. Okay? When I first started teaching in Japan, I was teaching English and I was 19 years old. Oh, I made such terrible mistakes. I taught Japanese people such mistaken English. I didn't understand the rules. I didn't understand what I was teaching. But every night I went home and I read a little bit about teaching English. And every day I got a little bit better. And I hope that now I'm okay. And every night I go home and I read a little bit more still. So every day I get a little bit better. That's all you need. Slow, step-by-step improvements. Okay? Video. Check the video. Ask for help. Ask someone to look at your video. Okay, that's all of my recommendations for now. And the last thing I want to do today is I want to see if we can have some presentations, or if we can, maybe to start, can we get the video up of last week's, of the presentations that I missed?
Okay.
Is that possible? At the end last week I had to leave, and I'm hoping that I can show you one of these videos and show you what I'm talking about in looking at your own video. How would you do this? The theory behind what I'm doing here is that in English we have a saying, and the saying is, give a man a fish, feed him for a day. So if you give a man a fish, he will have food for one day. Teach a man to fish, teach a man how to go out and catch his own fish, feed him for a lifetime. Okay? So if you give him a fish, here is a fish, he can eat, the next day he will be hungry. But if you teach him how to fish, he will have food for the rest of his life. So, of course, the truth is I could fix your presentations. I could look at it, I could say, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. Okay, now it's fixed, go and do it this way. And that might be good enough for you to win this year. And then we would be finished. My honest to goodness hope is that I'm teaching you how to fish. So when we look at one of these presentations from last week, my hope is that you learn how to look at your own presentations so that in the future you could do this at home again and again and again. Can we skip towards the end? And see if we can get to the presentations. There were some very good presentations last week. Okay, so this is on antibacterial properties of tea. It's the obvious one. We have put the sound up as loud as we can, and it's still hard to hear, right? Can you understand it? I can't. I'm a native English speaker, and it's just too hard for me to follow along with what is being said. It's too hard to hear the differences between different words. Okay? There are a couple of tricks to make it easier for people to understand. And trick number one is speak louder. Okay? Even though you have a microphone, and even though we can amplify it more and more, the more we amplify it, the more blurred it gets. So if your original voice is louder, then that will help. Now, that's maybe easy for men, but harder for women. So what else can you do? Well, another one is, if you haven't practiced, you will be reading. When you're reading, you will look down. Okay? When you look down, your voice gets lower. Okay? It's about the position of your throat. So I start to talk lower like this, which is harder to hear. Okay? And also, my voice goes down at the table, so you can't hear as well. So if you have remembered your speech and you look up, your voice has a higher kind of sound to it, which is easier to hear sometimes when you go through the microphone. And you're projecting your voice out to the audience. Okay? So that's a couple of things. So from watching this already, it's a great presentation, and here are some things we could do better. Okay, can we play again? Okay, and can we stop? Okay, so this diagram is amazing, right? This is a very good example of how, even though I can't hear the voice very well, I can understand the presentation because we have a very good slide. Okay? One warning, in this case, you are likely to be judged on your English to some extent. And what happens is that when something is being judged, we are trying to see, is this really you? And if the presentation is absolutely wonderful, but it's hard for a judge to understand your English, we start to think, oh, maybe he or she goes to Eikaiwa and checked this with their Eikaiwa teacher, and the Eikaiwa teacher fixed everything. Okay? So usually, if you are doing an academic presentation, making your slides do a lot of the work for you is really good. Okay? But in this case, don't rely on that. Do you understand what I'm saying? If it's a competition where people are judging you and are maybe judging your English, then if your slides are really good, that won't be enough to win, because they will be looking at your English. Okay? However, if you were to do a presentation in an academic forum, I've seen presentations from some Japanese people who speak no English, and they did really well. I've seen a presentation where a Japanese scientist did the whole presentation in English, and at the end of the presentation he said, in English, he said, "I'm very sorry, actually I don't speak English, so one of my students will interpret your questions, because I remembered this presentation word for word." Okay? He did really well. Okay? So you just have to kind of do your best here, and you have to show us. In this case, that probably wouldn't win for you, okay? Because we are trying to judge how good are you at English, and to some extent. Can we skip on to the next presentation?
My mentor is civil engineering.
Is this presenter here?
Is
Who is
more or
this?
less a Japanese B2C
Okay, so stop for a moment.
proposal of that.
Okay, so as I said, I want to teach you how to fish, not give you fish. So in the first presentation, I gave some feedback from me. That's giving you fish. Now, I want you to give yourself feedback. Okay, so we'll watch it for a couple of minutes, and then please tell us what you think. Okay? Your own ideas. Okay, so let's watch.
Young shop. I researched Japanese B2C EC, and then I developed a new style of B2C EC model. Introduce myself. I think I want to have a unique viewpoint. For example, it is architect, biggest, the next figure, and my answer is that it is also inductive and flexible, but probably my answer. It's the overview of my presentation. First, I show the smallness of Japanese B2C EC, and then propose a business model. Online shopping is one of the major means of purchasing in current situation. Indeed, the market scale of Japanese B2C business of 2011 is over 8.5 trillion yen, and it is growing continuously. Several studies have revealed the good sale
Okay, can we stop?
intermediation. terms of
he seems so nervous,
Mhm.
and the noise, there are a lot of noise, and he don't see, he see only the script,
Mhm.
and he should catch the audience, the timing of change the slide is too fast.
How about the slides? Looking at the slide that's up there now, is there anything you would change about that slide?
The technical word or how to understand the words. So the word should be replaced with the word.
So, firstly, if we look at being nervous is simple to fix. Practice. that's really the answer. Think of a time when you were relaxed before you start. Okay? So think of a time perhaps when you have done something similar to this, but when you were relaxed, not nervous. And remember that time. Okay? That's the first step to being relaxed. And if you don't have a time to remember, you have time to make one. Okay? So practice, go out, do this presentation to some people, and then do it until you feel relaxed. And then when you do the real presentation, you can remember that. Okay? That makes it easy. The big picture was not long enough for me. I didn't understand enough. Why is this important? You could even give me some details of the big picture. What is the movement towards e-commerce? How much of the economy has moved to the internet? You could look at some other things. For example, today I was looking at a motorbike, and I went to Honda, and I'm thinking, can I buy this motorbike here? So I get out my cell phone, which is a smartphone, and I looked at the motorbike. I said, so how much is the motorbike? And the shopkeeper, he said to me, blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry. So I go on to Go Bike, which is a motorbike shopping thing. I don't want to buy the bike from the internet. I want to buy it from the Honda shop next to me. But I don't want to pay too much. So I just go on, I have a look, and I say, oh, okay, well, can you make it a bit cheaper? And he said, why? And I said, well, there is a bike here in Tokyo. It's the same bike. It's a bit cheaper. Can you make it the same price? Okay? So e-commerce in my life is a huge part of my life. I don't go to the bookstore anymore. Amazon is where I buy all of my books. There must have been a change because when I was a child, there was no Amazon. How much of the economy has moved to e-commerce? That's the big picture that you might be part of. What is BTOC?
B2C is business to consumer.
Okay. Because in your speech I didn't know that. It's a technical word up there. I couldn't hear what it was, or I couldn't remember what it was, or I wasn't interested, and it keeps coming up, it looks important, and I don't understand. Technical words don't usually help. I say them again and again and again in the long form. Okay. Another one. I can't see the figures. I can see the trend going up here, okay, market scale of Japanese BTOC. So I assume you are trying to answer exactly what I'm asking you about. What is the movement towards e-commerce? Okay? Which is really great. That's exactly what I'm telling you you should do. But I can't see the numbers. The font seems too small to me. Remember, when you look at it, you think, oh, it's just because it's on the screen. But remember, the people at the back of your presentation room will see it like this. So be careful about the font. That was in lesson 1. Make sure that the smallest font you use is, 18. 24 is better. 24 points. Okay. It's great. The graph makes it easy to see the trend. But it would be nice to see the exact figures too. Okay, so that's just a little bit of feedback about how we do these. I'm not trying to fix your presentations. Okay? We are actually out of time. We have one more person who hasn't presented, is that right? One more? 2 more. Can I ask you to present now? Do you want to try? Want to try? Am I allowed to go over time and wait here? How long do we have?
We still have time, but 8時半から会議ですよね。8時半から柿本さんがここで堀込さん
そうですね。はい。そのようですね。
Can we do a little bit more? I would like to give them a chance. Okay, let's try and see your presentations. Okay.
参加者の皆さん、時間大丈夫ですか？もう電車とかで帰らなきゃいけない人はどうぞ。
Can I start?
Okay.
Thank you. Hello, I am Yuna Yamamori. I'm Hyogo University student, a first grade student. I'm Department of Agriculture. I studied the trigger of feeding of Aurelia oida, a jellyfish. This is outline of my presentation. I would like to introduce my presentation around this. First, what is Aurelia oida? What is a jellyfish? Aurelia oida is called moon jelly in English. They are the most popular jellyfish in the world. They live in all over the world, in California Bay, Mediterranean Sea, and of course in Pacific Ocean, in Japan, Okinawa to Hokkaido, even here in Kyoto, in Maizuru and Kyoto Aquarium, and in my home. Jellyfish has 2 forms. One form is Medusa. The form can often see in aquarium. They're floating. And other form is creep. The creeps attach rocks or something solid. Both of them eat zooplanktons. This is a rough drawing of creep. This is mass and this is tentacle. Using tentacles, creeps catch zooplanktons and carry them into the mass by constricting the tentacles. So it's not fun to see only the picture. So I brought a movie. So can we see this here? Here, I moved it and the mass opened. That's how creeps eat zooplanktons. You see? Thank you. This feeding process is triggered when zooplankton touches creeps' tentacle. But there are many unusual things floating in the sea. Therefore, I thought somehow creeps distinguish zooplanktons from unusual things. To show the trigger of creeps feeding, I conducted some experiments. In this presentation, I'd like to focus on the chemical factor. I studied about the trigger of Aurelia order creeps and compared the result with the trigger of another kind of creep, which experiment conducted by a German researcher, C. Fulton. So he studied about the trigger of feeding of Cordyrophora, the other kind of jellyfish creeps. I exposed creeps to 3 different solutions: peptone, fermentan, and glucose. Peptone is a kind of small protein, and fermentan is yeast used for baking bread. You know, it's called the conic formation. And I used glucose for contrast experiment. The result was like that. All creeps reacted to peptone and fermentan, but no creeps reacted to glucose. From that, it can be said that creeps distinguish food from unusual things chemically using the amino acid or protein. Moreover, as decreasing the density of solutions, it was revealed that more creeps reacted to fermentan than peptone in low density. Therefore, it is indicated that some kinds of amino acids trigger the creeps feeding. According to Fulton's research, Cordyrophora creeps distinguish food with a particular kind of amino acid. On the other hand, my experiment indicated that Aurelia order creeps distinguished by some kinds of amino acid. The difference between these 2 kinds of jellyfish indicates the variety among all jellyfish. In conclusion, Aurelia order and Cordyrophora creeps distinguish food from unusual things by amino acid, and the kind of the key amino acid is not common between them. Thank you for your attendance.
Okay, nice. Can we have any questions about the topic first? Do you have any questions you want to ask?
Then, excuse me. Thank you for your great presentation. Can I see the slides with 3 chemicals listed up? Oh, yes, thank you. You chose these 3 chemicals for test. I can't understand why you choose these 3. Are there some reasons to choose?
Because when I was conducting this experiment, I was a high school student, and there are the things that
Easy
must
to
be
avail.
is available.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, this is feedback about your answer. You haven't answered the question. Okay, so there are lots of things that are available in any high school. What about your lunch? Why didn't you give them onigiri to eat? You still need to answer why these 3. I understand that one reason is that they are easily available, but there must be some logic. They have amino acids. Does glucose have amino acids? No. So you used glucose because it doesn't have amino acids.
Actually, I tried more things
Right.
about the solution extracted by sakura leaves
Mhm.
and some roots of tree,
Mhm.
or the extracted solutions of the branching the food of them.
Right.
And so for this presentation, I choose them because exotic solutions of branching and sakura leaves and roots are we don't need them because the solution extracted from branching can be replaced by fermenter. So I could change the density when I use this fermenter.
That's much better answer.
Sorry.
That's a much better answer, and still it's not enough for me because I want to know why can fermentum be exchanged for blind shrimp? What is the same about it?
Because they contain many proteins.
Right.
So many kinds of amino acids.
Okay. So a short way of saying everything you said would be to talk about whether they have or do not have amino acids, and to say that research has suggested that the amino acids are important to how they sense it, and you wanted to test this hypothesis. Do they really use amino acids? So you are testing a control group with no amino acids and 2 different types of amino acids, perhaps, would be a shorter answer. Okay, so the answer you gave me is a good answer, but it was too long. So condense the content so that you can make a good answer. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? No? Okay, thank you. Can we have any feedback about this presentation? Any suggestions? Things that should be changed? Things that were good? You have to be quick. Get in there. We are over time. Feedback?
For your first slide, can you show me the previous slide? Previous, the first. I think, yes, this one. I think the background is a little difficult for me to see the words, to see the font. So maybe you should choose some better background which can make the font very clear.
Good comment. Anything else? Okay, a couple of comments from me then. The polyp is the immature stage of the medusa, of the jellyfish.
Not immature, the different stage. So they reproduce asexually, and they reproduce sexually. So it's not a baby jellyfish.
So why did we start talking about jellyfish? What is the link here? I understand your experiment is with the polyp, but I'm not sure why jellyfish are in our...
So I thought it is very unfamiliar. So, but I thought the medusa type form of jellyfish is familiar. So we can go in easily.
So it's a metaphor. Polyps are like jellyfish. Correct? Feeding system is similar? No? Okay, you don't have to answer now. You have to think for yourself, why did I talk about jellyfish? Make that clear. I'll be quick, so that's another thing. What was your research question? I don't know. Okay? Big picture first. Why did you do this experiment? What are you trying to find out? What is it part of? Why does it matter if you do this experiment? Probably for you, it was part of a high school test. Teacher said, go and do an experiment or something. So you don't have to have some reason. I don't know. Make up the reason. Decide what the reason is. Present it with a reason. Okay, here we are looking to test, or I was interested in the research, I can't remember what his name was, from this person, and I wanted to check for myself, is it true? He said jellyfish use amino acids to distinguish between what is food and what is not food. He said polyps use that. So I decided to reproduce his experiments and test this hypothesis. That's useful for us because at the moment the number of jellyfish are declining or increasing, or what is the big picture? Why do we care what polyps eat? Okay? Big picture. Conclusion, go back to that big picture. Okay? Tell us why your research is important. If you just tell us what your research is, I don't care. You have to do the work for me. Tell me why it's important. Finally, very small thing, popular. There is a little bit of confusion in your talk about the meaning of popular between being liked by many people and being a lot of. Jellyfish are very popular, okay? But in English, popular means only this one. It does not mean many. Okay, so you can't say that a kind of influenza is very popular this year in English. You can in Japanese. とても流行ってる. Great. But when you say that in English, it's very strange. 今年は A 型インフルエンザはとても流行ってる. This year, A-type influenza is very popular. Oh, people really like it this year. It's the same in your talk. Okay, so that's just very, very small. This one is very important. Okay, it was really good. It was nice to see. I like biology, so for me it's fun to look at. I like the pictures. I like the flow. You kept it simple. It's easy to understand. I suggest you go back and you look at these. Why did you do it? What are the details? Okay? How do they go back up to the big picture? Thank you. Well done. Okay, final presentation. I'm really sorry we're over time. You're out of
あ、いいです。
お父さんやってあげて。さっき
We'll try and finish Good to have someone who's good with computers.
？May I start?
Yes, good topic. I changed my batteries today for my car. Tell me about batteries.
Please start.
Hello everyone, my name is Taira Nakagawa from Kyoto University, Faculty of Pharmacy. Today I'm talking about the role of oxygen in the work of Mincho charcoal battery cell. My PowerPoint consists of as global warming has recently become an international concern, we have to find a new clean energy sources. One of them is a Mincho charcoal battery cell. It is a kind of battery that generates electric energy with Mincho charcoal. Mincho charcoal, it is a coal you use as fuel in barbecue. In Japanese, Mincho. I searched for the basic information about Mincho charcoal battery cell. The saline works as electrolyte. Aluminum foil works as anode. And cathode, 10% of battery is oxygen, which is stored in the Mincho charcoal. But I couldn't find any further explanation. Sorry. We can't see what is reacting through my eyes. So I checked by myself if the cathode is really oxygen or not. This study is based on the following hypothesis. Look at this figure. At first, oxygen is fully charged in Mincho charcoal. But the amount of it is only limited. If the Mincho charcoal battery cell uses oxygen for generating electricity, the amount of oxygen should reduce after discharging. And when we use all the oxygen by repeating discharging again and again without charging oxygen, the battery runs out of oxygen. And finally, the battery can no longer generate electricity. But after charging enough oxygen, the battery will regain its power. Next, I'd like to show the method of my study. We make a circuit like figure 1, like this. Then the Mincho charcoal battery cell discharges. We measure the voltage and the time the motor is revolving. We attach the propeller this, so we can easily judge if the battery is dead or After they discharge and the motor stops moving, we wash out the slime from the bincho charcoal in the water and immediately attach the new anode and electrolyte to bincho charcoal. We repeat this operation continuously 6 times. In the 7th operation, after washing the bincho charcoal, we leave it out of the water and make it unable to charge enough oxygen. Then we attach the new anode and electrolyte to the bincho charcoal and put it in the circuit and measure the voltage and the time the motor is revolving. By this operation, we can make sure that the battery regains the power after charging enough oxygen. As this figure shows, the time of revolution of the motor will shorter and shorter, and the voltage of the battery became lower and lower. As we repeat the operation after repeating the operation 5 times, the voltage got so low that the propeller doesn't revolve. We also found that after regaining enough oxygen, the battery regains the power it had in the past operation. Judging from the result, the power down of the battery with the decrease of oxygen and the power regaining after charge of oxygen, we can confirm that the oxygen stored in the bincho charcoal has something to do with the reaction of the battery. So we can conclude that cathode of the bincho charcoal battery cell is oxygen stored in the bincho charcoal. Allow me to conclude my presentation. Through this study, we can confirm that the cathode of the bincho charcoal battery cell is oxygen stored in the bincho charcoal by keeping the bincho charcoal battery cell being exposed to the least amount of air. However, we have something more to study. Next time, I would like to measure the amount of oxygen stored and used for discharging, because the results enable us to understand how long and how often we have to charge oxygen. And for practical use, we have to find the substitution, such as metal that works as an anode, because a lot of electricity is required to produce aluminum. Moreover, if we find other material that can store more oxygen than bincho charcoal, we can make more powerful end battery. Thank you for listening.
Okay, firstly, any questions about the presentation? We don't have much time. No questions? No? Okay, I have to move us on because we don't have much time. Do we have any feedback? Any things you would change or any things that you think are really good and to keep or enhance?
I have a little comment for your hypothesis. The figure you used in your hypothesis. It is too small to say the font.
Yeah. True, I can't read what it says in the arrows. And the blue, I can't see the.
Yeah, the font is too small.
Of course, I'm old.
Also for us, it's that small.
Yeah. Even for the young people. Okay. Any other feedback?
Yes.
Yes.
The main keyword is Bincho Chapo battery cell. You mentioned Bincho Chapo battery cell, Bincho Chapo battery cell many times, right? So I think you can abbreviate. So first of all, you can say Bincho Chapo battery cell, and after that you can abbreviate into BCBC or such kind of short made words. You can abbreviate so that you can explain your speech more easily. Does it make sense? I don't say you have to do. It's my comment.
In my opinion, Bincho Chapo battery cell is difficult to say for me.
Okay, not much time, so I'm going to give a couple of bits of feedback. Some specific feedback in the method part. Can you go to the method? Exit. Yes, this one. Would be really great if the picture changed. Do you have any pictures of doing the experiments? Any other pictures? The words change and go in. If you had pictures of washing out the charcoal and things like that, it would be easier to imagine. It was a little hard for me to get an image. Communication is about giving someone else an image in their mind. It was a little hard. So that's some specific things. Overall, I really like the presentation. Starts off with a big picture, moves through into the details. Okay? However, the conclusion doesn't go back to the big picture enough. And I don't know how your research is specifically related to the big picture, and you need to make that link for me. You need to say to me, if we can produce Bincho charcoal batteries that work effectively, we can replace petroleum-driven cars with battery-powered cars that produce electricity on the spot, or something like that. You need to explain. It seems to me from your presentation that the difference between this kind of battery and a standard battery is that this is generating electricity on the spot. Is that correct? You're charging from the air.
Yes.
So you don't have to have a nuclear power plant to charge your batteries.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a really good point. Link that to saving the planet in your conclusion. Will make a big impression. Okay. Really good. Nice presentation. Well done. Thank you. Finally, I'm really sorry we went over time. The truth is just simply that last week I left early and I couldn't give feedback on a few things, and I really wanted to make sure that everybody who wanted to had a chance to present. So my apologies, and I'm really glad that this year we had so many people present. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing your finished results. Good luck. Okay.
So